This is an endocavitary ultrasound. Going to go over based on where the probe is oriented and how to fan and do this exam. This is not something we do that often in our practice, but when we can, I think it could be very helpful. Based on the shape of the uterus, you have the endocavitary probe with the indicator to the patient's right. You're at the patient's end of the bed. You have inserted the probe, and now you've turned it towards your left. And what you need to do is then fan up and down, anteriorly, posteriorly. It can sometimes be difficult for the patient, but it really helps to get a good view of the objects in question. One thing I'd recommend, this is your bladder here, and it's kind of full. To do transabdominal ultrasounds, it's very helpful to have a full bladder. Endocavitary, this can distort your view, so it's nice to have them evacuate the bladder prior. You can see a nice clear endometrial stripe here, so to me, based on the images provided just in this one shot, there's no IUP, but we have more to go through. This is kind of the same thing. Again, I would work on moving the probe anteriorly and posteriorly. As you're doing this, let me brighten up the image a little bit. You can see something that appears right here. And that is not an IUP out of anything. I'm not really sure if it's an early gestational sac, but that is not something I would use to confirm an intrauterine pregnancy. Here you see kind of the same thing. That's not an IUP. And right here you see kind of this little swoosh. That is bowel, so that's just gas. Here on this clip, all I think you've done has actually turned the probe 180 degrees, where the indicator is now towards your right or the patient's left. You're moving the probe in the direction of the indicator, and you don't really want to do that just because that doesn't really help. You only do that to center the image on the screen, so you really just want it where it's in the middle. And then once you have that, you then fan up and down, or anteriorly and posterior. So if you start with the endocavitary probe and indicator towards the sky, you move the probe left to right. If you have the indicator to the patient's right, you then move the probe up and down. Again, you only move it in the direction or in the same plane as the indicator, only to get the object in question in the middle of your screen. This clip here is really nice because you've increased your depth, which I think is good practice, because you do want to see if there's any free fluid around the uterus. So again, just to summarize the couple suggestions. One, you always want to get the uterus in view, which is great, and once you find the endometrial stripe, you move the probe in the direction that's kind of not in the same plane as the indicator. So if the probe is to the patient's, if the indicator is to the sky, you move the probe left to right. If it's to the patient's right-hand side, you move it up and down, just so you can see a full view of the uterus. In this image here, I would say there is no IUP, maybe a gestational sac, but it doesn't look like a normal IUP to me, and this would prompt a formal. Try to evacuate the bladder before doing this, and that's pretty much it. A long video, but I think it's helpful, so let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.